So I think you view it the same way many people would view confidence. Often if you ask people, what does confidence mean to you? How do you know if you don't have any confidence or you have very high levels of confidence? People will talk about how they feel. It's exactly what you did, feeling good. Or the degree to which they have this sort of negative self-talk. If I'm not feeling confident, I will be talking critically to myself, or having nerves, anxiety. Another thing that people often talk about is having a sort of belief in oneself, and they would consider confidence to be about having an absence of doubt. You know, if you had 10 out of 10 confidence, you'd have an absence of doubt. You'd feel something that could be very energized for somebody. It could be calm, but there's something about, I would feel a certain way, and maybe an absence of fear. And this is how most people understand confidence. And you know, the approach to then work on that is to try to minimize anxiety, to use a sort of sports psychology approach called cognitive reframing, which is where you recognize negative thoughts, then you sort of adopt different perspectives. They often talk about changing performance inhibiting thoughts to performance enhancing thoughts, and then you can do stuff around listening to music, meditation, to maybe change how you feel. All of these sort of a variety of tools that can change how you feel or what you're thinking, with the end goal to sort of eradicate doubt, optimize belief in the self, and to feel a certain way that you think is going to be optimal.
So Paul, so you're saying it's not about feeling, it's something else. Is that right or not?
I haven't said what I believe yet, but I'm saying that if you believe confidence is about feeling a certain way, or not thinking negatively, then this is what you would do to address that. And there is a you know, historically within, say, sports psychology, because confidence is very big within sports psychology, probably the one domain that focuses on confidence more than others in a sort of psychology field, then that has been the approach, and that can be effective because we can control how we think to a degree, but that puts a lot of pressure on somebody. You know, if it's quite hard just to control how you feel. If you left your if after this podcast you walked down the street and somebody put a gun to your head and said, Harsha, I'm going to shoot you if you feel afraid, but your life's on the line, can you control how you feel? You won't be able to do it.
Yeah, tough one. Yeah,
right. So there's a lot of pressure in trying to engineer how we feel or how we think. Thoughts just come into our heads randomly. Like, who knows why we think a certain thing? We can respond to the thoughts, but that's effortful, takes energy. So there's an alternative conceptualization, which is that confidence doesn't have to be about how you feel or feeling good or having positive thoughts. Confidence is more about an action. And the action is driven by your values. So let's say you take your cricket scenario. You're walking out to bat. You might not be feeling good. You might be full of self-doubt. But rather than trying to change how you feel and almost persuade yourself to think a certain way, because your body and your brain is doing that for a reason. Rather than doing that, confidence for you comes from committing to a certain action rooted in certain values. So that could be, okay, I'm going to play aggressively because I want, this is what it means to bat with confidence. So an actual action, or an action of, I will just watch the ball. I'll still feel very nervous. I still might believe I'm the worst batsman in the team, I still might believe that I'm going to get dropped the next match because I've had 3 low scores. But the action is just to focus on the ball, and any shot that I decide, I will just play with conviction. So that's an action that's driven by an internal belief system, and then whatever the outcome is, so be it. Now that takes a lot of pressure off somebody, because your confidence now is more robust. You have a more a confidence that is driven by an internal framework, rather than most people's confidence is largely influenced by external factors. Somebody writes into you, or you get a few pieces of feedback saying, Harsha, I think your podcasting style is horrendous. You should just give up this game. Or you you lose audience members.
Yeah.
That will hit your confidence.
Sure.
If you have an external sort of, if your idea of confidence is that it comes from external factors, and that leaves you being very vulnerable, because if people say, oh, you're brilliant, I love that podcast, you'll feel great about yourself.
Yeah, no,
but you've no control of what they say necessarily. And what you do have much more control over is your sort of internal value system, which then drives your actions. And paradoxically, from there, your anxiety will be reduced. You're more likely to feel better, but you're not directly trying to change how you feel or how you think. If you're going to have lots of distracting thoughts, you just allow yourself to have distracting thoughts. You just accept them. They're not going to kill you. They're not going to, they're in and of themselves, they're meaningless. And so that can be absolutely worked on, but it's understanding that confidence doesn't have to be about very high levels of self-belief or feeling really good, because most people do not have very high levels of self-belief at all times. Many people have low feelings of self-belief for most of the time.